Write songs, Carolina in the pines.
And back in his day, technology wasn't so great, so they weren't sure on elevations of the mountains. And so he always thought it was the tallest mountain in Colorado, and he really hoped it was the tallest mountain in the U.S. But as technology advanced, he learned that it wasn't even the tallest mountain in Colorado, but the 5th tallest. So he hired a bunch of people to carry rocks up to the top of Mount Blanca, and they started stacking them on top of each other. They had to stack about 90 feet of rocks in order to get it to be the tallest, and after about 40 feet, he realized they would never be able to make it the next 50. So he got a 50-foot aluminum pole, stuck it in the stack of rocks, and declared it the tallest mountain in Colorado. I've never been to the top, but I know some people who have, and they said the aluminum pole is not there, but the stack of rocks still is, so it's the 5th mountain in Colorado. Is for every 100 feet we go forward, we will go up 2.5 feet in elevation. The concert site is the highest point in the journey, and it's at an elevation of 9,200 feet, and we're coming from 7,500, just to give you an idea of how high we're climbing today.
Chill out. Thank you very much, and I just want to say it's been great, too, for 7 years to work with one of the nicest guys in the world and really talented cowboy singer who happens to also be the real thing, cowboy from Kansas, and that's Fred Hargrove. Let's give him another big hand. She came to me, said she knew me, said she'd known me a long time. She spoke of being in love with every mountain she had climbed. And she talked of trails she'd walked up far above the timberline. From that night on I knew I'd write songs, Carolina in the pine. I'm on a rundown, I'm out running sundown, I'm thinking I'm on the right track. I'm writing a song as I'm riding along, I'm keeping the sun at my back. Big horse trailer and truck, I can make my own luck. I ride through the sand and the sage. It gives me a rush to be busting the brush, acting about half my age. Lone cowboy, I'm doing my best. Lone cowboy, I go everywhere west. Red River's the closest thing for me. And it's been great to spend the entire summer this year going back and forth between Red River, New Mexico and Levita or Alamosa, Colorado. Either playing on the train or playing in my own theater that I built out of logs right there at the Bitter Creek Guest Ranch. This is about going back. And when he became really famous, he was living in Aspen, he recorded one of my songs. And like I said, it was the first one that really kind of bailed me out. So I'd like to do it because even though he did a better job on it than I do, his voice just was amazing on this song. He sang it not because I wrote it about him or for him, but because of what the song says. You know, John was a guy who loved the outdoors as much as I do. And he wasn't a radical environmentalist like we see today. He supported hunters and fishermen and all kinds of outdoor activity. I think that man loved to ski and fly bush pilot planes over wild country better than anybody I ever met in my life. And of course, he died in an experimental aircraft. He was a real adventurer. And even though he took a lot of flack for being a little guy with a kind of a squeaky voice and funny glasses and Dutch-looking hair, by the way, he is from Dutch ancestry, John Deutschendorf. Even though he took flack for that from some of the people who thought they were really cool, he became the biggest selling recording artist in America for a few years. And I was really upset with Life magazine and Time magazine when, at the change of the millennium, they went back and identified the 100 most important people in different fields. And he wasn't even mentioned in the top 100 for the century that he lived in. You imagine that? The greatest entertainer of our time, who had a real impact on people thinking about preserving the land and taking care of the land, didn't even get on the list. His first world tour, and he is singing in China. He was the first American artist to be allowed to do a tour of all of China after the communists took over. And the Chinese people just loved John Denver. He performed in front of the Great Wall of China, and he sang this song by himself with an acoustic guitar, no band, in front of an audience of 1 million people. It's a really remarkable video. And if anybody ever tells you, friends, that any politician broke down the walls between us and the communists, don't believe them. And it was John Denver touring China, Roy Clark and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band touring Russia that did the job. After that, they figured if they shot a missile over here, they might accidentally hit Nashville or Aspen. Really, John should be up here singing today, not me. The last album that he made was a children's album, and every song was about trains. Because he called the forest brother, played Cherokee fiddle, played for the whiskey. Good whiskey never let him lose his place. He was always there, playing for the miners. Devil's Dream was a tune they understood. Then he'd go back to Oklahoma. Wait till the train was running and the weather was good. When he smelled the smoke and the cinder, slicked his hair back, opened up his case. He played Cherokee fiddle, played for the whiskey. Give up, forever's in my heart and in my blood. Come from a long line of love. Years went by and we had a son. Now he thinks that he's found someone for him. They're planning a wedding. Called me up on the phone today just to see what I had to say to him. For my grandfather that made 3 wars, World War I, World War II, and Korea. He was allowed to stay in the military until he was 70 years old. He loved to get together with his friend Admiral Nimitz and remember what they went through. Partner Duckett. And if she's a lady, you treat her like a queen. That's cowboy logic. Every cowboy's got it. It's in the way he lives his life, songs he sings. That's cowboy logic. It's the one who sits in the middle, son. He ain't just there by fate. First of all, if he's sitting in the middle, he don't have to be the designated driver on the way home from the Rio Grande Scenic Train Railroad. Number two, if he sits in the middle long enough and every time you ask him a question, he answers from the middle position, he could qualify to run for President of the United States of America. But you know, cowboys really don't like sitting on the fence. The real reason why a cowboy sits in the middle, and he ain't just there by fate, is he don't want to have to drive, and he don't want to have to get out and open the gate. That's cowboy logic. Every cowboy's got trail beyond your sight. Love is unforeseen and strange. It's only constant in its change. Sometimes you get ideas for other songs that don't fit. And we had stayed up for days trying to finish this in time for the deadline for the recordings to start. And I had been up for about 3 or 4 days. Finally, I just couldn't make it anymore. I told the guy I was writing with, Larry Kanzler, I gotta get some sleep. So he went upstairs, and I was sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor because I would drive down from the mountains in the San Bernardino area, San Gabriel Mountains, and I'd drive down, sleep on his floor when I worked on projects, and then I'd go back in the mountains because I didn't like being in the smog too long. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up from a dream, and I had dreamed this song in its entirety, totally articulated in my mind, every note, every word. And I worked on it for a couple of hours, and Larry's wife, who was a nurse who worked the early shift in the morning, came down to make some coffee. She said, "Michael, what are you doing up?" I said, "Well, I dreamed this song. I've just got to finish it. Would you mind going up and getting Larry to come down and help me tweak a couple of things on the music side of it?" Larry's a great composer, arranger, and pianist. So she went and woke up Larry, and he came down, and we finished it. All because I had a dream. And the song that I dreamed that night became my most famous song. I pass on to you, friends. I've calculated songs. I've sat down and intentionally tried to write good songs, tried to write hits, and most of the things I really tried hard on were a failure. And I've also sat down and written songs from total inspiration, and most of those songs were a hit. So I'd like to conclude today by saying, live by your dreams. She comes down from Yellow Mountain on a dark flatland she rides. sheen in wildfire, a whirlwind by her side on a cold Nebraska night. They say she died one winter when there came a killing frost, and the pony sheen in wildfire busted down a stall. In a blizzard he was lost. So by the dark of the moon I planted, but there came an early snow. There's been a hoot owl howling outside my window now, 6 nights in a row. She's come